Hey there. So you're feeling tired and you're over it and you're trying to work out what the hell is going on, right? So with fatigue, there are many factors that contribute to it, potential factors. And today I'm going to talk to you about the hormonal component. Adrenal fatigue, as it's kind of termed by naturopaths for quite a long time. Slightly incorrectly named, but I'll explain that more in a minute. But yeah, I'm just going to explain how cortisol, the production of cortisol is inefficient. This is why you get tired, right? So let me explain what cortisol is first. So cortisol is your stress hormone. It's a great hormone. It's a very essential hormone. It is produced when you are stressed. It is produced when you have inflammation or an immune challenge as well, right? So cortisol is part of the fight and flight response. It's released during that phase. So if you're very stressed, you get a lot of cortisol. Now, initially, when you are stressed, you have a spike in cortisol, right? Your levels go up and you have more energy to run around, do the things, run away from the tiger, get everything done, all the things that you need to do. But if the stress continues, let's just say a long time, then what happens is the cortisol levels start to drop down. The body starts to kind of adapt to this stress, and it's kind of like, the body realizes that having this high level of cortisol isn't great, and it starts to bring the cortisol production down. Problem is, when this happens, is you then don't have any energy. You kind of getting into this place of what we call adrenal fatigue, or correctly named is hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction, because it's not just your adrenals that are directing this, right? It's actually your hypothalamus and your pituitary that are telling the adrenals to make this, make the cortisol and the stress response hormones. So after a while, they're like, this is not good, let's stop that. Stop the production of cortisol, and you start to feel very tired, right? So whether the stressor is coming from outside stimulus, like, things happening within your family or whatever, or it's coming from an inside stressor, for example, food, infection, that sort of thing, it still has the same essential result in the body, which causes burnout and fatigue, right? So you can have adrenal fatigue that's caused by long-term stress outside or long-term stress inside. So this is what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about now, so you can start to have a look and go, which one do I think I've got going on? Or, do I have all of them going on? And in many cases, when people have had fatigue for a long time, they guaranteed will have all of them going on at the same time. I have also written or recorded other videos on fatigue, so go and have a look at those as well, because there is a lot to learn about fatigue. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is stress. So I've kind of just covered that. Like, the stress response is the primary thing that drives this fatigue response in the body, followed by inflammation, which is like, that's the outside, this is the inside. So inflammation is caused by many things, right? So the primary things that it's caused by is by poor food and diet choices, bad sleep, and infections, and the last one is toxins, right? So today I'm actually going to talk about caffeine. If you want to learn more about the diet, go to the other video. I'm going to talk about sleep, and I'm going to talk infections. In my next video, I'm going to talk more about toxins, because it's more about ATP and how actual energy is produced in the body, okay? So starting with food, right? So you're meant to be eating a clean, healthy diet. That's right, clean and healthy diet, right? However, whatever, a lot of us aren't. Anyway, go watch that video. Most people, what they're doing is they're feeling tired. They get up in the morning, they have a cup of coffee, they eat something, they go to work, do their thing, have another cup of coffee, and they may do 2 or 3 cups of coffee in a day. So, what is happening when you're drinking coffee? Now, my biggest thing that I'm always telling all my clients, because I specialize in hormone imbalance, women with hormone problems cannot drink coffee. I'm just going to lay it out flat, right? You shouldn't be drinking coffee, because all your sex hormones are driven by this, affected by stress and cortisol, right? And cortisol sits at the top of all the other hormones, meaning if you've got too much cortisol, then you have problems with all the other hormone production as well. So it's really a problem. So we've got to reduce this to be able to improve the flow of the production of all the other good hormones. So it's the same for men, it's not as bad, but if you are drinking a lot of coffee, if you are tired and stressed and you're a man, you do need to get off the caffeine as well. So people go, okay, I'm tired, I'm tired, I have a coffee, and then bing, I feel good. Now, what is actually happening when you're drinking coffee? This is the question. No, you're not making ATP. No, you're not making energy. You're not creating vitality in your body. You're actually depleting your body of energy reserves, and you're actually creating the stress response. So the number one thing that causes fatigue is stress. So what do you want to do to get rid of stress, get rid of fatigue, is you want to take away the stress. Now, you may not be able to control, the mortgage or the kids or the job or whatever. You can't necessarily control that stuff, right? But what you can control is what you stick in this thing. And so from this perspective, stress and reducing coffee is your primary thing to do, because you control it. You're just like, okay, I'm going to stop giving my body a hit of adrenaline 3 times a day. Instead, I'm going to allow my body to recover. I'm going to take some nutrients, I'm going to take some herbs, I'm going to do some relaxation processes and all this sort of stuff to help improve my natural production of cortisol, right? So this is the first thing. You need to get off caffeine. The next one is sleep. Sleep. Adults need somewhere between 7 to 9 hours sleep every night, and good sleep. So if you're living on 4 hours, 5 hours, or anything less, there's a problem, okay? So this is just standard information for general information for everybody. There are stories of, meditating people who meditate long periods of time and therefore don't need much sleep, but that's because they're resting, right? They are not stressed out to their wits' end, drinking too much caffeine, eating shitty food, etc. Yeah, so in the modern day, we are very stressed, therefore we need good sleep. So if you're very stressed, eating shitty food, and not sleeping, big problem. And drinking caffeine, big problem. This is like the recipe for adrenal fatigue. Full on, yeah? When you don't sleep properly, your inflammation goes up, your stress levels go up, your hormones get affected, your mood gets affected, everything gets affected. So if you're not sleeping, it's very, 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 very important that you focus on getting more sleep. And the first thing you can do to improve your sleep is quit the caffeine. Just stop it. Stop it. Stop the caffeine, okay? And then we're going to move on to the last one, which is infections. So bugs, parasites, viruses, bacteria, fungus, all of these things can live in the body, cause no harm, or they can live in the body and cause a lot of harm. We don't want to try and kill everything inside of us. We are made up of billions of bacteria and bugs, right? So it's not about killing them all off. The point is that we need to create balance in the body, right? And so when we eat a bad diet, too much sugar, too much alcohol, too much stress, this really, really affects the bugs in the body, right? What we also know is that when you're stressed, your body doesn't produce stomach acid. So what that means is when you're eating food, if there's naughty bugs on there, nasty bugs on there, your stomach acid is meant to kill them off when you eat it. But if you're stressed, the stomach acid's going to be low because your body's like, I gotta run away. It's in fight and flight, and it doesn't digest. Yeah. So there's 2 states of the nervous system. There's the autonomic, and that works under this rest and digest, and it's sort of gentle and quiet, and you sleep. Yeah. And then there's the sympathetic, which works when you're stressed, right? And so that one's all about, you don't need to eat when you're running away from a tiger, right? You don't need to eat when you've got 1 million deadlines. You can't. Have you noticed? Right. So this is the thing, is the stress really affects the immune system and the body's function, and therefore you end up with bugs in the body that shouldn't be there, or an imbalance of bugs in the body that shouldn't be there. So commonly I will see people with fatigue, if they're very fatigued, they will always have infection in the body. And it's often a combination of parasites, viruses, bacteria, fungus, can be any of those, or it can be all of those, or it may be one of those. There's even things like Lyme disease and mold and all these other things as well that get a little bit more complex. But yeah, there's a number of infections when you're dealing with fatigue, especially if it's chronic fatigue. And the difference between chronic fatigue and say adrenal fatigue is adrenal fatigue is like, I've been tired for a while. It's more like burnout. And you can kind of recover quite easily if you just stop all the stuff that I'm talking about. Chronic fatigue, you stop all this stuff and you're still unwell. And you're like, I've stopped the coffee, I'm eating good, I'm doing all the things, I'm sleeping, why am I still tired? This is like more of a stronger problem, right? It's chronic, it's long term, and you need more help, essentially. So the great thing about this is all the information of like what not to do. I've told you a little bit about what you can do, which is definitely eat clean, get better sleep, get off the caffeine. These are like the obvious things that you can just sort out like tomorrow if you wanted to. You could just start doing all these things. The next thing is like the infections. Infections are a bit harder to deal with because how do you know you've got them? And the truth is, most people won't be able to tell you if you've got one. You go to a normal doctor, they'll test you for stuff, they're like, nah, you're fine, you're all good. Now this is why I think this is why naturopaths exist. Because we deal with all the people that go to the doctor and get told everything's fine, but they're like, I don't feel fine. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I've got all these symptoms, I'm not fine. But you go to the doctor and you get all the test results and everything's in range, you're fine. So this is because they're not working, we work in different paradigms. That medicine has its job and our medicine has its job. And so naturopathic medicine is very good at dealing with this chronic health problem stuff. Yeah, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, infections that you can't see, that you can't pick up. Now, because I do kinesiology, muscle testing, I'll do a video on this one day to explain it, but I can pick up what's inside your body really effectively. And what will happen is I will go through your system, I'll work out what herbs and vitamins and things you need, and essentially your body tells me, your body needs this herb, this herb, this herb, and this herb. And by the herbs that show up, it tells me, this is what's going on. And so if the herbs that show up are anti-infectives, then I know there's an infection. And depending on which of the anti-infectives it is, I go, it's bacteria, or it's parasites, or it's viruses, right? So that's how I work it out. And this is how I get these great results with people with infection. So infection is a bit trickier. You really need to work with a naturopath or someone who understands this sort of herbal medicine side of things and can detect these what we call hidden infections in the body. Once you get rid of them, then the inflammation will start to go down, your immune system will start to improve, your sleep will start to improve, your energy will start to improve, your skin conditions or whatever else that you've got going on will also start to improve because the underlying cause, the thing that's driving all this inflammation is gone. So the other thing is toxins. I'm not going to talk about toxins now, go watch the next video, but toxins like heavy metals and chemicals and things like that, they can also drive inflammation and cause adrenal fatigue. So hopefully that's been helpful. If you want my help, you know what to do, send me a message. Okay, talk soon.